Hello out there. This is Mark, and I have a new project that was spurred by the current Detroit Tigers, who are doing very well, and we're very happy here in Michigan to be able to have more interest in watching and going to their games. So it kind of brought me back in time to one of the two World Series that the Tigers have won during my lifetime, and that was 1968. So what I did was I went and got from Steve Etzel the latest and greatest Sports Illustrated game chart creation spreadsheet, and I used it to create the American League teams for 1968 because I would like to replay that season, and I can do that with the program that I ran. But before I start that, let me talk a little bit about 1968 and the game that I created, and then I'll play the first game of the season for the Detroit Tigers. So to do that, I will show you this little chart on 1968 Denny McLain, who was the last pitcher to win 31 games. So that was a very long time ago, 50 some years ago. Let's see, what is 68? Yeah, 50-ish years ago, mid 50s somewhere. Doing the math in my head, but I don't want to do that. 31 wins and 6 losses for Denny McLain that year, which I kind of think might never be equaled unless baseball changes somehow or the other drastically from how it's played today. The other thing that'll never be equaled are the number of complete games that the pitchers back then pitched. Denny McLain pitched 28 complete games in 1968. Today, it's unusual if a pitcher pitches 2 complete games in one season. But in his season of 1968, Denny McLain won 31 games. He had an ERA of 1.96, which is really good, but not the best ERA of all times. Even not the best in 1968 because Bob Gibson, Louis Tiant, Dave McNally, and Sam McDowell all had lower ERAs that year. The batting average against for Denny McLain was 200, which is good, but wasn't the best. Bob Gibson had a better batting average against, and maybe some other pitchers did. I didn't look that up, but the average batting average for an American League team in 1968 was 230. So he led up 200, and the average team was 230, so he was 30 points below. He had 28 complete games. The big thing I think got him to 31 games was the run support he got from the Tigers in 1968. He got 5.23 runs per game in the games he pitched. The league average was 3.4, so he was almost 2 runs higher than the league average. When he pitched, the Tigers scored almost 2 runs more than average for 1968 for the American League. So in comparison, Bob Gibson is down there. He won 22 games. He lost 9. He had a 1.12 ERA. Unbelievable. I don't know if there's anything that's been, close to that since. The league average in the National League that year was 2.99, so he was like 1/3 the league average. He gave up a batting average against a 184 versus 243 league average. He also pitched 28 complete games, but instead of getting 5 runs per game from his offense, he only got 3 runs a game. So when he pitched, in order to win a game, would have to let up 0 or 1 or 2 runs, which in 22 times he did, because his ERA was 1.12. But sometimes he let up more than 3 runs, or sometimes they scored less than 3 runs. So that was his challenge in 1968. So that being said, I will now show you how my game works. You've seen it before on other YouTubes, but here's a description. So you can do my game in 3 ways. It's a computer game. You can play a single game. You can play both teams, manage both teams yourself, or have a second person, or you can manage one team, have the computer manage the other team. The second mode is to play an entire season for a single game, which is what I'm going to do next. And when that mode, you manage your team, and the computer manages whoever you're playing that game, and the computer also plays all the other games that you're not involved with, and all the games are played with as played lineups and starting pitchers. The third mode is to just have the computer play a whole season. It'll play all the games as played in order with the lineups and starting pitchers, and all the teams are managed by the computer manager. So this is kind of a fun way to see um, how the game compares against real life, what happened in the actual season. So the computer logic, the computer manager logic will decide when to bunt, when to steal. It'll make the Sports Illustrated game manager decision based running decisions. It'll do that. It'll pinch hit, but it only pinch hits for pitchers, and there's logic in there that says, later in the game, if the team's tied or behind, then it'll pinch hit for your pitcher. It'll bring relief pitchers in either after a pinch hit or pinch hits for the pitcher, or when the pitcher reaches his limit of hits plus walks plus runs. That's kind of my personal way of uh, of measuring the pitcher's fatigue level. So when he gets to a certain level of those things added together, um, then he gets relieved. And it's a higher number for starters than relievers. But I tweak that number to try to get in so that when I look at the season at the end, that the right number of relief pitchers were used and the right number of innings pitched for the starters were done and those kinds of things. So that's how my game works. Now I will go to my game, which is right here. And before I want to play the single season for the Tigers, I'll show you how to play an automatic entire season. And I only have the American League team, so I can only do that. I didn't do the National League teams. And my goal is to play an entire season and show you probably Denny McLain won't win 31 games. So to play an entire season, I just hit A and then I hit L, yes, and it played the entire season, and here's the results. So instead of the Tigers winning this season, the Oakland Athletics won. Let's look at the Tigers' stats. Pitching stats for the Tigers. Denny McLain was 23-7. His ERA was 2.47. So his ERA was higher than his ERA in the actual season of 2. He pitched 324 innings. He had 15 complete games instead of 28. So he didn't pitch quite as well, or the team didn't give him quite as much support, and he got pulled for a pinch hitter. Tigers won 95 games. In real life, they won like 104. So they didn't quite equal the real life. Here's the league for the season that I just played. American League batting. We'll look at all of them. Say 450 at bats. So the leading batting average was Carl Yastrzemski, and when you see it in red, that means that was the leader in the actual 1968. And I think Carl Yastrzemski's batting average was 301, and he was the only 300 hitter. So that came out pretty close. Home runs, Frank Howard hit 44. He didn't hit enough here this year. Harrelson led in RBIs in real life, and here Campaneris led in hits. Both places. Reggie Smith led in doubles here and in real life. Jim Fregosi was supposed to lead in triples, but McAuliffe did instead. Stolen bases was Bert Campaneris in real life. Here, Cesar Tovar stole a couple more. McAuliffe was supposed to have scored the most runs, but Yastrzemski scored more in this replay. And let's look at the slugging. And Frank Howard was supposed to lead in slugging, but he came in 6th. So that's pretty close, I thought. Let's look at pitchers, leaders, American League pitchers. I'll look at ERA. I'll say 200 innings minimum. So Louis Tiant had an ERA of something right around there. As you remember, I told you Tiant, McDowell, and McNally all had lower ERAs than Denny McLain. Here, Tiant and McDowell have lower than Denny McLain. McNally's down on the list a little bit, but still the right pitchers in the right spots. Innings pitched. McLain pitched the most innings. I think it was 323 he pitched in real life. Here it's 324. McDowell's supposed to lead in strikeouts. He didn't quite lead. McLain led in wins, 23 instead of 31 though. Losses were these guys. I don't know who led the league in losses. That's kind of a harder thing to match up, wins and losses for pitchers, because it has a lot to do with run support, which varies in games. Saves. There's not as many saves in my game. I could tweak that a little bit, but there weren't that many saves in 1968. I think the highest was 20-ish. It was Al Worthington. He didn't get as many saves in my replay. Here's the inning. Here's games pitched. Wilbur Wood had like 88. Here he is with 65. And that's my Cy Young candidates. And that's just, ERA, strikeouts, and wins and saves. All right, that's that. That was the season I played. Here was the results of the season. Now I will zero that out, and I will play the entire season game by game for the Detroit Tigers, and I will show you the first game. So to do that in my game, I say I want to play a complete season. I want to play the Tigers, and you can see it begins playing all the games one at a time as they were played in 1968. So the first game, Baltimore won. The second game, Chicago won. And the third game of the year is the Tigers. And the Tigers are playing Boston in their first game. It was on April 10th, 1968. And the starting pitchers were those two fellas, Ellsworth versus Wilson. No Denny McLain starting the first game for the Tigers. There were the starting lineups for Boston in that first game. Here are the starting lineups for the Tigers in the first game. Here are the defensive ratings for the two teams and their defensive out numbers. If a pitcher rolls an 11 or 12 for Boston, it's a defensive out. And if a pitcher rolls a 13 for the Tigers, it's a defensive out. So we will say, yes, I want to see the dice, and we'll continue on to the first game. So my game shows the field that was played on. So that's Tiger Stadium. It's Boston at Detroit. It shows the next three batters coming up in the yellow box. It shows the options in the yellow box. You can bunt, steal, pinch run, pinch hit, relief pitch, defense, intentional walk, or just swing away. So I will probably be swinging away most of the time. So we roll the first dice is a 21 on Earl Wilson. You can see that first colored line is Earl Wilson. This is a good time for me to tell you the two things that my game does differently here than the original Sports Illustrated box game. Number one is the home run adjustment for pitchers. So a pitcher can have a HR or HR in parentheses in his line. You can see Earl Wilson. The first box are the 10s. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Number 16 is a home run. And what that means in this game is if a batter gets a hit, it gets changed to a home run. Now, if they have a parentheses home run, that means if the batter hits a home run, it gets changed to a single. So that's a kind of a modification to Sports Illustrated Baseball to adjust home runs let up by pitchers. The only other thing different about this game is that if there's two outs and a runner on base and there's a hit, like a double or a single, where a manager's decision has to be made, I increase that runner's speed by 1 because the logic is there's two outs and he'll be running on contact, so he should be faster than if it was 0 outs or if it was a sacrifice fly or something like that, where he's closer to the base, when the play is made. So I rolled a 21 for Earl Wilson. A little white box circles the 21 on Earl Wilson's lineup there. It's a green box, which means batter swings away. So I roll again. It's 35. You can look at the second line, which is Mike Andrews versus a right-handed pitcher. So 35 is over there on the right, and that's a ground out, a DP. So that's a ground out. So Mike Andrews grounds out. Dalton Jones comes up. A 27 for Wilson is nothing. A 32 for Dalton Jones is a double play, which is a ground out. You can see the statistics by the batter, average home runs and RBIs. That's in this game. That's not real life. So this is Dalton Jones' first at bat. He doesn't have anything. And the little plus means Dalton Jones is a green bunter. Bunting is either good or bad, and so in this game, and a good one is a plus. And if he's a bad bunter or a red bunter, there is no plus there. It's just a blank. When a runner gets on base, we'll see the speed of the runner. There's 14. That's not the defensive out for the Tigers. As you recall, it's 13. Okay, there's a 12. So that is a double. That's a double asterisk in Sports Illustrated world. You can see on my result box, I put it on the left if the result comes from the pitcher, and I put it on the right, left if it comes from the batter, right if it comes from the pitcher. So there is a double. Yastrzemski's up there on second base. In 1968, Carl Yastrzemski, we assume he would be a two-runner based on the Steve Etzel revised chart creation spreadsheet. So there's Yastrzemski on second. Reggie Smith comes up. There's a 12. That's not a defensive out. There is a 37, which is a ground out. So Earl Wilson gets out of the first inning. Here comes Dick Ellsworth, a left-hander. So a 34 for Ellsworth. You can see he has no home runs or parentheses home runs. 34 is nothing. 32 for Stanley's a strikeout, the blue box. 34 for the pitcher. 35 for the batter is another strikeout. So Ellsworth got 2 strikeouts here. 32 is nothing. 13, Al Kaline gets a single. So there's Kaline at first with his run 1 speed. 32 is a nothing. There's a strikeout for Horton. So Ellsworth strikes out the side. Top of the second. Wilson on the mound against George Scott. 34, 34, ground out. 32, nothing. 35, fly out. If you don't know this game, the black dice is the 10s and the white dice are the 1s. And there's 3 threes, 2 twos, and 1 1 on the black dice. So the 3s come out 3 times as much, and the 2s 2 times as much, and the 10s 1 time as much. So and then in the middle of each one, the 24 and 30, 24 and 25 come out more than the ones on the outside. So like 19 is the one that comes up the least because it has to be a 1 and there's only one of them. It has to be a 4, there's only one of them. There's a 5 and there's only one of them. So the numbers on the outside of the 10s and the 20s and 30s come up less than the ones on the inside. So that was a lot of talk for not much value. There's a 36 for Wilson and a 31 for Petrocelli. He flies out. Here we go to the bottom of the second. 22 for Dick Ellsworth. There is a strikeout for, wow, Ellsworth struck out all 4 batters. See how far that continues. 13, is that an automatic out for them? It is not. 36, that's a strikeout for Jim Northrup. Who's going to hit the ball first for the Tigers? Don Wirt. Don Wirt pops out with an F. All right. Top of the third. There's Alston Howard. Came over from the Yankees to end his career, apparently, with the Red Stockings. 33 from Wilson. A 38 is a flyout. You can see air is usually number 39 for the batters. 30. And the yellow X is a pitcher X, which means it could be a wild pitch or balk or strikeout, or a hit by pitch. We'll get to one of those probably. 39 is nothing. 35 for Ellsworth is a ground out. Mike Andrews comes up. He flies out. And here we go in the bottom of the third. 36 from Ellsworth. Ground out for Ray Euler. Here comes Earl Wilson was a really good hitting pitcher. I remember that. Look at that. He's got a home run on like 26. That's very unusual for a pitcher. 35 singles. Got a single on 31. So there's Wilson on first base. He's got one of the 2 Tiger hits, one of the 3 hits of the game. 34 is nothing. There's a strikeout of Mickey Stanley. Dick McAuliffe comes up, 27. And he pops out. So there's no runs through 3 innings. Dalton Jones, a K. So Earl Wilson rolled a 22, which is a K on his chart, which means if he doesn't get a hit, it's a strikeout. And if he does get a hit, it stays as the hit. So it's a 10, so it is a hit, so he gets to keep his double. So there's Dalton Jones on second base. Carl Yastrzemski. So here we go. A 29 from Earl Wilson is a single plus. So when pitchers have higher batting averages against, they get some of those sprinkled around. And unfortunately, Earl Wilson hit his at the wrong time. So Jones scores on Yastrzemski's single. 32 is a strikeout of Reggie Smith. Oh, look at this. Here is the manager's decision. So he has decided Carl Yastrzemski, a 2-runner, will try to steal second base. Up pops the steal chart for a 2-runner. You can see that on the left. It goes from top to bottom, 10 to 39. The reds are outs and the greens are safe. So let's roll the dice and see if Yastrzemski is safe on a steal attempt. He is an 11, which is a balk. So Yastrzemski gets the second on a balk on his steal attempt. Earl Wilson balked. And here is the pitcher's X. And there's the pitcher's X chart. So you roll the dice there and you find out if it's a hit by pitch or wild pitch or whatever. So I rolled a 35. It becomes a wild pitch. Yastrzemski goes over to the third. So I box him the second. Wild pitches him the third. 1 out with George Scott. There's a 31 and a ground out. Scott is out on a G. The runner does not score. So that's nice. Here comes Joe LaHood, 37, and he walks Joe LaHood. So Rico Petrocelli with a 33 and a 32 is a ground out. So they get 1 run in the inning. Yastrzemski came around after his double. No, that wasn't Yastrzemski. Who the heck was that? I don't remember. Okay, here's the pitcher's X. Nobody on base, so unless it's a hit by pitch, it won't matter. Wild pitch, see, wild pitch with no runners on base, so nothing happens. We roll the dice again, a 32, and then a 32 is a flyout. Here comes Willie Horton with a 37, and he pops out or flies out, short flyout. 29 is nothing. 36 is a flyout. On the flyouts, the F is like a pop-up. The F in parentheses like a short flyout where the runner on third might be able to tag if the manager wants to take the chance. SF is a sacrifice fly. He'll score from third. No one else advances. And then the SF in parentheses is a deep fly ball where the runner on third scores and the other runners could tag and advance if the manager decides. That's a little education on how Sports Illustrated Baseball works. Here's 33. There's nothing. He strikes out Howard. The pitcher comes up. He walks the pitcher. That's kind of bad. 38. There's the pitcher's X. 21's a wild pitch. Ellsworth goes to second. Most pitchers are 0 runners. 14 is not an automatic out, but he rolls a 38 and grounds out. Ground out with a star as runners advance. So there goes Ellsworth over to third. 32, and he gets out of it. Good, Earl Wilson, he got out of it. Okay, here we go, the bottom of the 5th. Jim Northrup leads off. There is one of their numbers. 12 is one of Boston's numbers based on their defensive team rating. So it's an automatic out due to an outstanding fielding play. So Northrup's out. Don Wirt comes up. He pops out. Ray Euler comes up. He strikes out. So through 5 innings, 1-0. Carl Yastrzemski, 24, and a 23 is a strikeout for Carl. Reggie Smith gets a walk. George Scott comes up. He rolls a 31, gets a single. That's a single with a star, so Reggie Smith will go over to third. First and third, with 1 out, left-handed batting, Joe LaHood comes up. That's a 12. That is the automatic defensive out. No, it's not. Not for the Tigers. That was for Boston. So it wasn't automatic out. It was a nothing pitch, and he rolled a 38. It's a G star, so the runners advance 2-0. 35 and 30 is an out, a ground out. So the 2-0. Tigers got to start getting some runners on base. I could pinch hit, but Earl Wilson is as good a batter as I have on my bench, so I'm going to let him bat. There's a 24. And he misses a home run by 1. He gets a 25. Should have been a 26. Earl would have put it out of the park in this game. Mickey Stanley with a 25. Then a 22 is a ground out. McAuliffe gets walked. All right, we got a runner on. K-Line's the tying run. 27's nothing. What does K-Line need? He needs a 12. Come on, 12. He got a 12. I like how this game works. So K-Line hits a 2-run homer with McAuliffe on first base, ties the game. 2-2. It's more fun for me because I'm a Tigers fan. There's a fly out for Horton. Here we go, top of the 7th. Earl Wilson is still up on the hill. He walks the leadoff batter. All right, see, here is a manager's decision. Those blue boxes are the computer managers thinking. Dick Williams was a manager of the Red Sox in 1968. He has decided in a 2-2 game in the 7th inning, he's going to pinch hit for his pitcher. And what he does is he looks through his bench and he'll find the batter who has the best chance of getting hit against a right-handed hitter in the game based on their chart. So let's see who he picks. He picks Joe Foy. So here comes Joe Foy against right-handed pitcher Earl Wilson. Earl throws a 24 and Joe throws a 37. He strikes out. Now we got 1 out with Mike Andrews up, 15, and a 33 is another strikeout. A lot of strikeouts in this game. Dalton Jones comes up, 33, and a 39 is an error. All the errors in this game are one-base errors. So Jones is on first, Howard's on second, Yastrzemski's up. Oh, I rolled another 29 in a current situation. So the pitcher, Earl Wilson, gives up a single that scores Elston Howard. Reggie Smith comes up, and Reggie Oh, rolls a 21. Earl Wilson is faltering. Look at that. There's George Scott. He's batting 333 with 0 home runs and 0 RBI. So that means that he's batted 3 times in this game and has 1 hit. All right, I'm going to bring in a reliever. I don't want to hit that 29 again. So here's my relievers. I got Hiller, Dobson, Patterson, Lasher, Wyatt, Warden. And they're in the order of games pitched. So I'll bring in right-handed pitcher Pat Dobson. So Pat Dobson doesn't have any 1 pluses. He's got some automatic outs up there, and he's got an HR in parentheses, which will turn a home run into a single. Let's see what he rolls. He rolls a 27. It's a nothing. George Scott with the 21 flies out. So Pat Dobson gets the 3rd out, but it's 4-2. Pitcher was removed in the last inning. So their new pitcher is Lee Strange. You can see there's his lineup on the top. He gets some automatic outs there. 27 is not one of them, so Freehand rolls a 12 and strikes out. Jim Northrup strikes out. Don Wirt, 30. Don Wirt flies out. And as hard as it was to get 2 runs before for the Tigers, we only got 2 more innings, and we're down by 2. Lahoud flies out. There's a 35, and Petrocelli hits a home run by rolling a 14. So Dobson lets up the home run. Dobson rolls a 35, and there's a strikeout of Elston Howard. Here comes pitcher Lee Strange. That they're now ahead, so he will bat. The computer manager leaves him in. 16, and he grounds out. Bottom of the 8th. Leadoff is Ray Euler. We'll pinch hit for Ray Euler. He is a very weak hitting shortstop. Then we've got a right-handed pitcher, so I'll bring in one of my left-handed batters. I'll bring Gates Brown, premier pinch hitter for the Tigers in that era. 35. Oh, look at Gates Brown. He rolls his 25 and he hits a home run. So that cuts the lead to 5 to here. Pat Dobson, pitcher. He'll get pinch hit for. Let's bring in pinch hitter Eddie Matthews. Eddie Matthews didn't bat much, but he had a few home runs, so he's got a lot on his chart. He walks him. Okay, Eddie Matthews gets in first base. Here comes Stanley. Stanley strikes out. That's 2 outs. 28 and getting interesting. Look at Dick McAuliffe rolls a 13. It doubles. So there we go with McAuliffe on second, Matthews on third, and Al Kaline up. 2 runs down. Let's see what happens. 13. Oh, 13 is a sacrifice fly. Look at that. He rolls a 31. And SF means Matthews scores, McAuliffe holds. Here comes Willie Horton, 1 run down, 31. Oh, he rolls a 25 and he's out. Okay, we got to bring in a relief pitcher. We'll bring in our closer, even though we're behind. It's not how managers would do it these days, but I don't care. Now, if you remember, we pinch hit for our shortstop. So there's Gates Brown. We pinch hit for the shortstop, so he can't stay there. So we will pick another shortstop. And we have 2 to pick from. Matchik is a 3 and Trzaskowski is a 5, so we'll pick the 5. So now we have Dick Trzaskowski, and at shortstop our total is 425, which means if a 14 is rolled, that's an out. Okay, Hiller's the lefty against Andrews. 34 is nothing. Andrews strikes out. Dalton Jones grounds out on Hiller's chart. Hiller rolls a 32. It means Yastrzemski rolls a 15. He singles. Yeah, Carl, yes, having a good game. Here's Reggie Smith, 333 with 1 RBI so far this game. Up. Yastrzemski's going to steal again, the 2-runner. Let's see if he's safe. He runs a 38. Carl Yastrzemski steals the base. Reggie Smith, the 26, and luckily he pops out. So that's the end of that inning, and here we go. Bottom of the 9th, 5-4. Bill Freehand doesn't have a hit yet. He's batting 0-0-0. So Lee Strange rolls a 26. Freehand rolls a 35. Those mid-30 numbers are almost always outs because they're very commonly comes up, and batters don't bat 600. They bat 200 to 300. There's a 12. There's their number. So Northrup doesn't even get to spin the dice. Here's our last chance is Don Wirt, and I'm not going to go out with Don Wirt hitting. He's not a great hitter. So we will bring in, look at Norman Cash against a right-handed relief pitcher. He's got some home runs, got some power. 31's nothing. Okay, he needs an 11. 13, 14, 15, or 16. Come on, low number. 30, grounds out. That's the ball game. Tigers lose game 1 of 1968, 5-4. Ellsworth gets the win. Starters get the win and the loss. There's the look at Yastrzemski, 4 hits. He had a stolen base. He did not score any runs. He had a double. Dalton Jones had a double. Dalton Jones scored 2 runs. Petroselli scored a run, hit a home run. See how the Tigers did. There's the Tigers hitting. Not great. 5 hits only. 2 for Kaline. 1 was a home run. Kaline knocked in 3 of the runs. Gates Brown pinch hit home run. They had some home runs, but not enough. There's the pitching. Lee Strange relieved. There's the Tigers pitching. And the computer will continue to play the games on the schedule until the next Tiger game comes up. So there's Minnesota beating Washington, Cleveland winning, and the next Tiger game comes up. But I will not play that game now, but I will go out here and I will show you the standings. And there's the Tigers, 0-1. So they're not in first place, wire to wire, but hopefully they'll be in first place at the end. So with that, I will say adieu, and hopefully this had some enjoyment level for people that happen to watch it.